Hi, everyone. Angie here, and I'm here to share a little bit of yoga with you. We're kind of in a more subdued environment for our class tonight, and that signifies that we're going to have more of a gentle practice to really help release stress. So, we're going to go for about an hour. We're not going to need very many props, but of course, since you're practicing from home, if you want to grab all your props, you can. Um, but really, the only thing that I have planned prop wise for us to be doing tonight will involve a blanket. So go ahead and grab that if you don't have one already. So tonight's practice, we're not really going to be doing vinyasa sun salutes. We're going to be doing more of an evening kind of wind down practice. And this is to just prepare us for, relaxation throughout the rest of the evening and hopefully to prepare us for a really good night's sleep. So, thanks for joining me, and thank you to the Neva Lomason Library for sponsoring this class for us. And namaste. So, just find a comfortable sitting position for yourself. If you wanted to, you could take that blanket and you could sit on the very edge of it, just having the sits bones on and everything else sliding forward and down, or to give your hips a little bit of a lift and more extension through the back body. So then just breathing deeply, reaching up through the midline of the body as you inhale to the crown of the head. And as you exhale, start sending the breath down the back body midline, all the way down to the base of your spine. And then we'll start again, visualizing that breath starting at the base, inhaling up through the front, mid body, all the way to the crown of the head. Maybe the eyes are closed here. Maybe your gaze is sent downward as you exhale. Just start sending that breath down the back midline. Stay with this visualization, with this breath, a few more rounds. Every exhalation as that breath moves down the back midline of the body, see if you can release tension that you might be experiencing in the shoulders, the jaw, the hips, or glutes, abdomen, anywhere you might be experiencing tension, inviting it to let go as you exhale. Maybe one more breath with that visualization, the mid body. And then just checking in with yourself mentally, seeing where your mind is. Practicing in the evening like this can be quite challenging mentally because maybe we have a lot of thoughts kind of swirling around in the head left over from the day. Maybe you had a busy day. And so just taking this time to shift gears mentally from that and invite everything to slow down a bit, invite more presence, more awareness. And then as always, if an intention comes up for you, you can take a little bit of time to set that intention for yourself. That intention can be something that, as you feel distracted throughout this session that we're about to do together, you can bring your mind to this intention, let it help kind of refocus your efforts, re-motivate you back on the path. few more breaths here. And then when you're ready, if the eyes are closed or your gaze is downward, then blink your eyes open. Look back at the head. Head is neutral. And then we're going to go ahead and come out of this cross-legged positioning. So first, let's just extend the legs out in front. But then we're going to come on to the hands and knees. So making sure that your hands are right underneath your shoulders and your knees are right underneath your hips here, okay? And so from here, we're just going to press back into our first child's pose. So your knees are either hip width apart, okay? Or if you wanted to, you could take the knees wider with the big toe mounds touching back behind you and then come into a wide knee child's pose. Now, if you do that, you'll probably have to stack the fist or stack the hands to rest the forehead. So whether your knees are wide or just at that hip width, go ahead and make sure that your head is resting either on the hands, the fists, or on the ground. Let's not hold the head up or dangle the head away from the ground. So just 2 more big breaths here. And then slowly press yourself back upright, back up onto the hands and the knees. And so if you were like me and came into that wide stance with your knees, then go ahead and bring the knees back to that hip width again, okay? Inhale and just come into your dog tilt, extending through the spine, reaching back through the base of the spine, same time kind of reaching up through the midline to the crown of the head, but then slightly lift the crown of the head and the sits bone slightly. As you exhale, pull the navel in, round through your spine, and come into a cat tilt here, tucking your chin. Back and forth, we just move with the breath. Inhale, dog tilt. Make sure you're not collapsing into the shoulders. Exhale, cat. And 3 more. Inhale, dog tilt. Exhale, cat. 2 more. Inhale. Taking your time. We're not in any rush here. And then last one. Getting back to a neutral positioning. We're going to curl the toes under, press firmly through the hands, reach your hips up into downward facing dog. Let your head dangle here. Make sure it can hang. Big breath in. As you exhale, lower your knees. And again, press the hips back into child's pose. Remember, the knees are either hip width or wide, but the forehead rests on something. The ground, the hands. Now from here, inhale, come up onto your fingertips. Okay, I'll scoot you back a little bit. And then as you exhale, walk your hands out to your right side as far as you can, and then fold here. Now, in this fold, let your head either rest on your arm, or some of you might be flexible enough to allow the head to rest on the ground. See what's available to you. Every inhalation especially, you should feel this really big lengthening stretch side body. And then every exhalation, relaxing into it. Inhale, lift the head, come out of your fold, walk your hands back out in front of you. And then as you exhale, you'll walk the hands out to that left side as far out as you can while still keeping this right hip, kind of reaching downward toward that right heel, but then folding over the legs here, resting your head. Every inhalation, feel that opening stretch through the right side body. Every exhalation, releasing into it. And then lifting out of your fold, coming back to center, and then back to the hands and the knees. Now from here, we're just going to take a seat. And so that we're all on the same page, let's have the left leg in front of the right leg. Okay. So left leg is in front of the right, sitting up nice and tall. Let me kind of find that foundation, find that seat. And then we're going to start to work on the shoulders a little bit here. So have your hands in sort of, gentle fists. You don't have to have really big, tightly clenched fists, just kind of relaxed fists. Elbows are bent, and we're going to do little circles, kind of like we're drawing circles with the elbows. Let's do 3 more in this direction. And then let's do about 5 in the opposite direction forward. You're just breathing naturally as you do this, making sure you're not holding the breath. 1 more. Good. Now we're going to extend the arms out. We're going to do little circles forward. And then back. Sitting up nice and tall. Your core is activated. And then big circles forward. We're doing about 5 in each direction. And then big circles back. Good. And then relax the arms, relax the shoulders. We reach the arms out in front of us for eagle arms. So take this right arm over the left, okay? And then intertwine your arms like this for half of eagle pose Garandasana. If you can't quite set that right elbow on top of the left elbow, then instead squeeze the elbows together like this, but then take that right hand out in front of the left and then squeeze the tops of the hands together. The same stretch. Okay, this is just a little more gentle variation. So wherever you are, we're going to do pulses here with the breath. We're going to inhale and lift the elbows up as at the same time we're reaching out through the elbows, and then as we exhale, we lower them back down. We're going to do that 2 more times. Inhale, lifting up, and exhale, lower down. 1 more time. Inhale, lifting up, exhale, lower down. Nice wrapping stretch around the shoulders, the top, back, body. Okay. Now, reaching that left hand out, I'm going to take the right arm up and over into our side stretch here. So, took that first side stretch from child's pose. And just like in child's pose, when we were doing this, we want to keep, in this case, the right hip grounded as we reach through the right side body towards this left side. Inhale, coming back upright. Exhale, same thing, other side. So trying not to collapse through the right side of the body. Left hip this time stays grounded as we reach through the right side, or through the left side body toward the right side. Getting confusing here. Inhale, coming back upright. Okay. So back to the hands and the knees, and then we'll come back to a sitting position to get the other side for eagle arms. So we'll come back to that. But let's just take a little break, give the body a different position to be in for a second. Okay. So from here, take your left knee a little closer in toward your midline, and then we're going to extend that right leg back behind us, making sure we're not collapsing into the shoulders, pressing firmly through the hands, and then turn the tips of the toes of the right foot to direct them downward. That's going to help engage that core girdle that wraps all the way around your body. Now, I'm going to do a little 3-legged dog, kind of half 3-legged dog, since we are down on the knee. Bend that right knee, and then we're going to lift that foot up and then send it over toward your left side. So we're actually stacking the right hip on top of the left. Now we can keep both hands on the ground, or we could kind of lift up onto the fingertips of the right hand. We could also lift that right arm, and you can't see, but my right hand, the palm is open toward the right side of my mat here, if the arm is lifted. If we're feeling really balanced, we could grab hold of the foot for sort of a half bow expression to see what's available to you. You might be right here with the hands on the ground. One more breath wherever you are, and then slowly start to bring the hips back into alignment, bringing that knee back down to the ground. Same thing other side. So this time the right knee is going to come a little closer into the midline of the body, and that's just going to help with balance. Okay, we extend that left leg out. We want to make sure that that foot is flexed, the toes, tips of the toes pointing downward. But then we bend the knee. And then we lift the knee up. And then we stack that left hip top the right. Coming up onto the fingertips of this left hand. Or keeping the heel of the hand down. Either keeping the hand on the ground or seeing about lifting that arm up. And again, I apologize, my arm's cut off from our view, but my palm is open toward the left side. Remember, you can see about the balance that it might take to grab hold of the foot for your half bow. Or again, you might have your hands on the ground. Take one more breath wherever you are. Keep that core brace, and then exhale and lower the knee down. Now, having a seat this time, we're going to take the right leg in front of the left. So right back to it. Reach your arms out in front of you. Garudasana arms. Take that left arm over the right, and then intertwine the arms. Remember, if we need more of a beginner version, we squeeze the elbows together. And then this time we would take that left hand in front of the right and then press the tops of the hands towards one another as firmly as you can. All right? So let's do our pulses. Inhale, lift the elbows up while squeezing. Exhale and lower down. So that's what that pulse looks like with the beginner version. Two more. Inhale, lifting up. Exhale, pulsing down. And then one more time, inhale, up. Exhale, and lowering down. And then releasing the arms. We're going to come into a little seated twist. Inhale, reach your left arm up. And then as you exhale, just start twisting toward that left side. Bring the left hand back behind you. Now, what we want to look out for is we want to make sure that the shoulders are relaxed and that they're rolled open. That goes for not only this shoulder, okay, the front shoulder, the right shoulder, but it also goes for that back shoulder. Actually keeping that back shoulder rolling open is what kind of can help take us deeper into the twist, as well as having movement in the abdomen. We don't want to be bracing through the core so much here in this twist that we can't find the mobility that we need. And so it's just enough balance between activating enough to support the lower back in this seated position while being relaxed enough so that you can twist. So take one more breath in this seated twist. And then let's just slowly unwind our way out and back to center. Same thing other side. Reach that right arm up, inhale. Exhale, and twisting toward the right side. Left arm just going to come across the midline of the body to rest lightly on this right leg. If you're trying to crank the twist, then you can turn the palm of that hand up and let go of the ego. Just settle in. Instead, allow yourself to enjoy your yoga practice. Make it challenging, but We want to find that balance between challenge and joy, or effort and ease as we do. So big breath in, and then slowly coming back out of the twist. Great. So back to the hands and the knees. We want to have the knees directly underneath the hips and the hands are underneath the shoulders. And we're going to come back into that downward facing dog here. So curl the toes under, inhale. As you exhale, lifting your hips and pressing up to downward facing dog. If you notice that you're lifting your head like I'm doing right now to talk to you, let your head go instead. Let it go. It's really good in the cervical spine, so you get that decompression through the neck as we let the head hang here. Take one more breath. And then as you exhale, lower your knees. Keep the toes curled underneath you, though. And yep, you can see what I'm talking about. Walk your hands back toward your knees. Okay? And you can feel the stretching your feet. Right? Now, if you can come upright, then that's going to be the most intense version, and it kind of cuts my head off, but you can see, what we're doing. We're sort of sitting on the heels. This is a very intense stretch through your feet, and so make sure that there's no pain here. If there is, and we just bring our hands back down, and we keep working on it. And over time, increasing that flexibility. One more breath wherever you are. And then allow the tops of the feet to rest onto the ground. All right. So we're going to do one more foot stretch. And that one requires us going into downward facing dog. Now, we're going to be stretching the tops of the feet. And so I'm going to demo it for you first. And then I'll come down and then I'll talk us through for you to go through it. If you've done this stretch before, then you can come on up with me right now. So basically, we curl the toes, we send the hips up, we come into downward facing dog. Now you can see my feet here. I'm going to take my left foot and just very lightly press the top of the foot into the mat. Very little of my weight is actually on that left foot. Most of my weight is on my hands and my right foot. And then I would switch, same thing other side. And it takes really very little weight in order to feel that stretch through the top of your foot. So one more breath. Oh, you guys aren't doing it with me yet. So I'm coming on down, and then this time you're going to do it with me. All right? And so very important, remember, don't put much weight on the top of your foot. You want to keep that weight, most of it anyways, in the hands and the foot that you have the sole of on the ground. Okay? So here we go. Coming up, hands and knees, curl the toes, sending the hips up, and then we'll start with the left foot. Take the top of that foot and just lightly press it into the ground as you engage through your core, as you let your head hang, as you press firmly through your hands and your thumbs, and then switch other side. So take your time. Now it's going to be the top of that right foot on the ground, very little weight. Your arms should be getting tired. Take one more breath. And then come onto the sole of that foot first. And then lower your knees down to the ground. Into a seated position here. My blanket straight. All right, so we're going to, instead of just cross-legged, we want to have this right leg in. The right knee is bent here. And my left leg is extended. I have a slight flexion in my left foot. And so the tips of the toes of the left foot are angling upward always, even as we come into some poses from this posture, from this positioning. So sitting up nice and tall, inhale. And as you exhale, walk your hands out in front of you. And we're just taking a fold here. Now, as you can experience, as you can see, as you can feel, the inner left thigh is getting a nice opening stretch here. Nice lengthening stretch. So I'm reaching out through my chest rather than trying to bring the head down. And so that might mean that, we don't get to go down as far as we want to, but we're, practicing in a much safer way, and we're going to reap the benefits of that flexibility if we practice these poses properly. So one more breath wherever you are. And then just use your hands to help you come back upright. We're going to come back into a seated twist in this positioning. So inhale, right arm lifts up. Exhale. And again, not to kind of come forward to fit my arm. We reach that arm back behind, and then the left arm is going to take hold of that right leg gently. Now we still have the tips of the toes, the left foot pointing straight up toward the ceiling. Big breath in. As the breath flows out, bring your hands, one kind of on either side of this bent right knee, and you might stay here. Or in the next exhalation, you may be able to come into a fold over that leg, over that right leg. Again, with the left leg, that left foot, you have the toes pointing upward. The foot is still in that flexion. 3 more breaths. And then use your hands to walk you slowly back upright. So you can tell we're slowing things down, shifting gears. All right, let's take it to the other side. So reaching that right leg out, pulling the left leg in. Okay, so let me move just a little bit. Here we go. Great. All right, so sitting up nice and tall, inhale. And as we exhale, just like we did before, we're going to bring the hands out in front and come into that fold. So now we're really feeling the stretch through the inner left or right thigh. Mirroring you guys. And breathing deeply. Notice how rather than looking straight ahead, which is going to bring compression into the neck, instead I have my chin tucked and the neck is long. And so whether you're up kind of high in your fold or maybe you're down lower, remember to keep that extension through the neck as best you can. Let's take 2 more breaths here. And then slowly walk your hands in as you come back upright. All right, so we're going to take that twist. Inhale, reaching the arm up, that left arm up. Exhale, twisting towards your left side. Just like we were talking about before, your left shoulder is rolling open. That right shoulder is relaxed as much as it can be. Take a big breath in. As the breath flows out, come out of the twist just enough to sort of center yourself over your left thigh so that the kneecap or the center of the kneecap kind of lines up generally with your navel. Sitting up nice and tall, inhale. Exhale and folding over that leg. Breathing deeply. Keeping the tips of the toes of that left foot pointing straight up toward the ceiling. Don't let them kind of angle forward or back behind you. 1 more breath. And slowly walking your hands back in as you come upright. Good. Feet together, bound angle. Sitting up nice and tall. And so you can either kind of hold on to your feet or maybe hold on to your ankles. Just see what feels best to you. Now, for some of us, we're just going to stay right here where we are for bound angle Baddha Konasana. I'm going to turn to the side to show you what I'm talking about. So, for some of us, when we come into bound angle, we have a hard time sitting up nice and tall. So, you know, we might have this roundedness kind of happening. And so if you're still working on this, that's okay. What you're going to do is you're going to take that blanket and fold it to where it's fairly thick, okay? So that we can take it and sit on the very edge of the blanket. So big difference between sitting on it like this, okay, I'm right on top. This is me kind of scooched off the front and just sitting on the edge of it, and see how it gives me a lot more space in my back body. So for some of us, we're going to grab that blanket and we're going to sit on it and come back into bound angle, and then see if that helps us to you know, make those posture corrections, right? But if you are able to maintain that pose without a blanket underneath you and without you know, rounding, then you're going to come into your fold. I'm going to stay turned to the side to show you guys what the fold would look like. So you would start by sitting up nice and tall, and then again leading with your chest. You're actually trying to bring your chest, your heart center, as close to your feet as you can. And notice how, you know, I'm not rounding through the back in order to try to get my head down, but I'm reaching through my chest instead. Okay? So again, some of us might not even be in this fold. If we're still working on sitting up nice and tall with no roundedness, then, you know, we're not folding tonight, and that's okay. If you fold before being, you know, able to kind of break the habit of that roundedness and to develop the muscle and flexibility to stop rounding as you fold, then you can really injure your vertebra in that way as soon as you start to fold. So that's why it's important to master bound angle before we come into the fold with it. So slowly, if you did come into the fold, come back upright, and it's going to feel really good to extend the legs out in front. So extend the legs out in front of you and just sort of hop the knees, just to release through the major muscles of the legs. Okay. Now, we're going to do just a little bit of work with boat pose, Navasana. And we're going to do a crisscrossed ankle version of that. So, as you can see, I've got my right foot crossed in front of my left, kind of crossed in front of the ankle. And my first variation of boat pose, Navasana, would just be to sit up nice and tall. And then as I'm doing that, I want to be engaging through the core, really pulling the navel in, breathing deeply. Now, the next step, if you can go a step further, is just to reach your arms out in front of you. Still engaging the core, still keeping the legs in this positioning. So now, if you can go a little bit deeper, we'll just lean back slightly. But when I lean back, just like I was, you know, trying to sit up nice and tall in that bound ankle pose that we just practiced, keeping my chest lifted, keeping myself extending rather than rounding, okay? Then we see about lifting the feet. And at first, it's just lifting them off of the ground and letting them hang. But then over time, you may be able to lift and have the shins closer to parallel with the ground. So take 2 more breaths wherever you are, whether you're here or here. and then slowly start to make your way out of the boat pose. Now, since the right leg was crossed in front of the left, we're going to keep it that way as we come into a forward fold, just to help release some of the lower back that had to work so hard in boat pose. So sitting up nice and tall, inhale, and as we exhale, again, we're just going to fold over the legs. Right leg is in front of the left now. We'll switch in a minute. So here's what if you did have a block. Some of you might have your head on the ground, but if you did have a block, you could put your head, rest your head on the block. You could rest your head on your hands. Whatever needs to happen. We're reaching out through the chest while at the same time reaching back and downward through the sits bones. So 2 more breaths. Big holding stretch here. And then slowly make your way back upright. Same thing, other crossing. So now we're going to have that left foot crossed at the ankles in front of the right. And here we just, have the core activated. And even here, we can get sloppy, okay? And so there's something really for us all to be working on, even if you're right here, okay? Sitting up nice and tall, keeping that core activated, maybe reaching the arms out as the next step. Staying right here or seeing about finding that sweet kind of balancing spot there near the tailbone while still keeping length of the spine, keeping roundedness out of the back body. Lifting the feet is the next step. Shins more parallel to the ground is the last step here. Breathing. Wherever you are, take 2 more breaths. And then slowly lower out of that pose. Navasana, sitting up nice and tall. Inhale. As we exhale again, we're just going to fold the legs in this crossing now. And it's always interesting, when we're practicing the very same pose, we're just moving, from side to side, just to compare and notice how it feels to take that pose, on one side. Compared with the other. And then in your home practice, when you, do notice particular poses where there's a really big difference in flexibility or strength or balance from one side to the other, in your home practice, then you would practice on that side that was a little weaker for longer. Rather than holding for just 5 breaths, you might hold it for 7 breaths on that side, or even 10 breaths on that side to try to even things out. So they walking your hands back in as you come upright. And then again, extending the legs out in front of you, hopping the knees. We're going to come into Gomukhasana, our cow face arms. And we're going to do that with options. We have options for the legs. So with your legs, the kind of more beginner option is going to be to cross your legs. And let's have the left leg crossed in front of the right. Okay, stay there. If you can go a step further, then stack that left shin on top of the right shin. We call this fire log, or we call it double pigeon, square lotus. Has a lot of different names. All right, so sitting up nice and tall. Now make sure if this is comfortable to you, then this knee can be down. If you're in this position and the knee is like that, unless you have a block or a blanket or something to put under it to support it, then you really are going to have to probably think about coming back into cross-legged positioning, okay? Now, we can go a step further from here. For those of us that have a little more openness through the hips, we'll stack the knees. So we'd have that left knee stacked on top of the right. And as you can see, especially as we kind of take our time, if you are in stacked knees trying to get level again through your hips, you might have to wiggle a little bit, and it really helps to use your hands to kind of gently hold on to the ankles, kind of secure things there for yourself. Good. Now, whenever you're ready, we're going to move into the upper body part. And so for those of you with the knees stacked, see if you can let go of the feet. And then since the left knee is on top, then that means that my right arm is going to go back behind me. My right hand, palm is resting against my back body in between my shoulder blades. And at first I just use the left hand to kind of pull that right elbow in. I'm getting a nice stretch through the triceps here, with the tricep on the right side. Now, I'll turn to the side to show you guys the next step. Okay, so here, and let's see, yeah, I have my right arm. I have my right arm back behind me, and my left hand is kind of holding onto that right elbow. So like this, actually. And then from there, I'm going to reach this left arm back behind me. Now notice I keep my right hand in between my shoulder blades, right elbow pointing up toward the sky. But then with my left arm, I'm going to reach it as far across the back body as I can toward my right side. And then from there, I'm going to bend that right elbow and see about bringing the fingers closer and closer towards one another, maybe clasping. Okay, don't worry if the clasp isn't there. You might, be right here or something today, and that's fine. Wherever you are, take one more breath and release. All right, great. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So let's uncross the legs, and we're going to actually take a wide angle with the legs before we come into the right leg crossed in front of the left. All right, so move my camera. You can at least see, there they are, my feet sitting up nice and tall. Now, if this is too wide of an angle for your legs to be in, you can, obviously bring, the feet a little closer in towards one another, but you just want them to try to mirror as far as space away from the midline, same amount of space on one side as the other. So whatever positioning works for you, go ahead and come in and then look at the feet, make sure they're in line with one another. One is not a little more forward than the other, and looks like we are good to go on my end. Now for a lot of us, just like in bound angle, when the soles of the feet are together, we might be working on just sitting up nice and tall rather than allowing ourselves to slouch and around with the back, okay? So for some of us, just like we did before, with bound angle, we can take that blanket and we can sit on the very edge of that blanket. That's going to lift your hips up, more height, more space in your back body. If you are able to sit upright with, relative ease, then you can bring your hands down in front of you and start working your way into your fold. Just like any fold we do, we're leading with the chest, not with the head, and then tucking that chin like we've been doing, keeping some length through the neck. Breathing. So maybe you have your belly on the ground, maybe your fold is a little higher, like this. As long as you're feeling that stretch through your inner thighs, you're feeling like you've moved to your edge, then you are exactly where you need to be right now. Take one more breath wherever you are, and then just slowly start walking yourself back upright. Now use your hands under the knees to help pull the legs back in. And then we're going to have that right leg crossed in front of the left. That's our first positioning. of the legs, our first option anyways. Next option, we have stacked shins. Okay. Remember, we want to have this right knee resting if the shins are stacked. Next option is stacked knees. And remember, kind of wiggle around because you don't want to feel, you don't want to be lopsided here. Okay, so we want to try to sit up nice and tall. Try to even your weight out as much as you can through the sits bones here. And when we're ready, we can let go of the ankles. Now, remember, some of us are not going to be here. Some of us are going to be in stacked shins. Some of us are going to be in that cross-legged positioning. So be where you need to be. Now with the left arm, we're going to reach it back behind the body, grab hold of that elbow with the right hand. Breathing deeply, sitting up nice and tall. Try not to let your chin tuck, but keep your head to a neutral positioning. Now letting go of that elbow, keep that left hand where it is in between the shoulder blades. Reach your right arm back behind you all the way over to the left side that you can, and then start to bend that right elbow and start reaching the fingers toward one another, maybe clasping the fingers or just bringing the fingers as close to one another as you can. Breathing deeply, 2 more breaths. And release slowly. I'm going to extend the legs out in front. Make sure that you have room back behind you to lie down. And before you do lie down though, we're going to grab the blanket and do a little chest opener, heart opener, restorative pose. All right, so with your blanket, I had folded mine and maybe you had folded yours too. You're going to unfold it because we want to roll it. All right, so when you unfold it, maybe roll it up to about halfway or so. Because what we're going to do is we're going to place this blanket roll essentially under the chest. And so if you get down there and it's too intense and you're having a hard time taking nice deep breath, then come back upright and make your roll a little thinner. But you just want the bottom of the shoulder blades resting on the blanket. I'm kind of sliding around a little bit. But then the rest of kind of, 75% of the shoulder blades are going to then fan over the top of that blanket, and then you rest the back of the head, the back of the skull onto the ground. Have your arms resting on your sides. Some people prefer to rest their hands on the abdomen. If you feel like you don't have the support that you need through your neck here, then you could try adding a little pillow, under your head. So we're just going to be here working on relaxing into this heart opening back bend. Every exhalation, softening, releasing into it. Just 7 more breaths here. This is a good one to add to your weekly routine. Doing this a couple of times, 3 times a week can make a profound difference on just your breathing, taking deeper breath. It also can have a really positive effect on your posture. Because as you can see here, I'm really broadening through the chest. When I'm doing that, I'm stretching through the intercostal muscles in between each of the ribs of the rib cage. And the more flexible those muscles are, the easier it is for us to take deeper breath. And all the while here, my shoulders are rolled open, and I'm kind of training my shoulders to stay in that rolled open positioning rather than rounding forward, creating that sort of osteoporotic hunch. Okay. Now to come out, we're just going to slowly roll onto the side of the body so that we can take and move the blanket out of the way. Okay. So moving that out of your way. And then coming back onto your back and just noticing how it feels now to lie on the ground without the bolster underneath the chest. Even though that bolster, that blanket rather, is not there anymore, you can probably still experience a little bit of that lift, a little bit of that opening. And so again, add this to your routine. 2 to 3 times a week can be very, very helpful. Have the feet wide here, inhale. And as you exhale, take your knees like windshield wipers to your left side. So the right hip is off of the ground. I'm trying to keep my right shoulder on the ground though. Inhale back to center. Exhale, knees to the right. So now my left hip is off of the ground. Right shoulder though making contact. And then moving with the breath. Inhale, center. Exhale, knees to the left. You might have your head turned to the right. Inhale, center with the knees, center with the head. Exhale, knees to the right. Maybe turn the head to the left. Inhale back to center with the head with the knees. Exhale, knees to the left, head to the right. Last time, inhale back to center. And then as you exhale, legs to the right, head to the left. And inhale back to center. And then just take your time setting up for Shavasana. So you might have your knees bent this whole time here. Since you have your blanket, and if you wanted to, you could roll it up all the way, and then place it under your, under your thighs, kind of under the knees as well, pulling the shoulders open. Begin to recline, relaxed position. And so here, really letting go through the sacrum, feeling the weight. Of the body, rooting down through the sacrum, rooting down through the backs of the shoulders, rooting down through the back of the skull as well. And so just lying there, resting. Every inhalation, see if you can invite length and space into your body. With every exhalation, see if you can invite softening, ease, release. So just a few more breaths there. And then as always, you can stay for a really long time, longer in Shavasana since you are practicing from home. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. When you do come back up from Shavasana, and it might be much, much later, then when you do come up slowly, be really careful, and then take your time coming to a sitting position, checking in with yourself, making sure that you have that good posture. So again, thank you all for coming, and namaste. So one announcement, next week we will and be looking for the posts on this for scheduling through the library. through the Neva Lomason Library calendar. But I believe we are going to be doing Facebook Live on Mondays at 6:30. So it's going to be a little different, almost the same time, but a different day. And then, once the library opens, and I don't know when it's going to open, I don't think anybody does quite yet, but once it does, then these classes will then pick back up at the library in person at 6:30 on Monday nights. So just be keeping posted with looking out for their calendar. And again, thanks so much for joining me. Have a restful evening. Good night.